Are you tired of weight loss products filled with artificial ingredients and empty promises? Discover the power of nature with Pure Revive, the ultimate solution for healthy weight loss. Check out the link in the video description now to start your journey with Pure Revive.
FAR right? Hard right? Radical right? Or just plain right? The success in the recent EU elections of parties such as Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National, or RN, the rebadged Front National, and Germany's Alternative für Deutschland, AfD, has generated a debate about whether the label far right should be retired because, as Spectator editor Fraser Nelson argues, many parties that carry that moniker are now mainstream in a way that wasn't the case 15 years ago. Such parties are, for Nelson, better categorized as New Right. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, whose party the Brothers of Italy is descended from a fascist organization, has shown in practice that she is center-right, not radical. It is nonsense, Nelson insists, to call Meloni's party post-fascist or to suggest that the disparate new right parties all belong to a single far-right or radical right lump. It is true that the term far-right is thrown around too promiscuously and that, in power, far-right politicians often rule not like latter-day Mussolinis but rather as technocrats with a reactionary edge. What is missing from this argument, though, is the recognition that the mainstreaming of the far right should raise questions about the character not just of the far right but of the mainstream, too. Organizations termed far right comprise, as John Bloomfield and David Edgar note in a new polemical critique of the populist right, at least three distinct lineages. First, there are the unashamed neo-fascist parties, such as Germany's The Homeland, or NPD, and Golden Dawn in Greece. These may pose a threat on the streets, but have little popular support. Then there are the fascist successor parties, organizations that developed out of old fascist parties, including Meloni's Brothers of Italy and France's RN, many of whom have striven to detoxify themselves in search of electoral success. Finally, there are new parties such as the AfD, founded in 2013 as an anti-EU organization and described at the time as the party of the professors and a bourgeois party of protest because of the number of academics on board, and Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom, PVV, created in the Netherlands in 2006 to oppose immigration and Islam, which triumphed in last year's general election. The burgeoning success of far-right or near-right parties does not herald the march of jackboots, or a return to 1930s fascism. The fascist parties of the interwar years emerged at a time of fierce class conflict and of violent confrontation between capital and labor. Today's new right has been nurtured by almost the reverse social conditions. Over the past 40 years, working-class organizations have disintegrated, class conflict has become less overt and large sections of the public have become disengaged from the political process. At the very time that economic and social developments, from the casualization of work to the imposition of austerity, have made working-class lives so much more precarious, social democratic parties have moved away from their traditional working-class constituencies, leaving many feeling politically voiceless. Meanwhile, the politics of class has given way to the politics of identity, and class itself has come to be seen not so much a political or economic category as a cultural, even racial, attribute. Politicians and journalists often talk now about the white working class but rarely about the black working class or the Muslim working class, even though a far greater proportion of black people and Muslims are working class. Sign up to Observed, analysis and opinion on the week's news and culture brought to you by the best Observer writers. After newsletter promotion. Instead, commentators such as Matthew Goodwin, an academic researcher into right-wing populism who has now turned into an advocate for it, imagine an informal alliance between white elites, corporations and minorities against the white working class, thereby both excluding minorities from the working class and playing on white victimhood. All this has opened the way for reactionary movements to reshape politics by linking a bigoted form of identity politics, rooted in hostility to migrants and Muslims, to economic and social policies that were once the staple of the left, defense of jobs, support for the welfare state, opposition to austerity. In practice, new right politicians advocate measures deeply inimical.